Play back the recording.
Then I was mistaken.
So that is, I can actually, to be rough, I can say you are lying.
The Umkhonto weSizwe Party in South Africa is adamant that Parliament's ad hoc committee has given President Cyril Ramaphosa sufficient time to submit answers to the committee's written questions. The party has rejected Ramaphosa's request to extend his submission to the 16th of this month. The committee is investigating allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system. The committee's MKP member Sponelo Nomvalo.
So, we're not taking this excuse of the 16th because, everyone is complaining about time, but the president is not complying with time. The 16th is too far, Chairperson. The responses must be given now, because if there are questions that have not been answered satisfactorily, we believe that we must be given an opportunity again for follow-up questions. Now, if the president responds when we're about to finish, then that means we're not going to have that opportunity.
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo Mwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, the final leg of the African Schools Football Championship zonal qualifiers are expected to start on Thursday. And Francis Ngannou will return to mixed martial arts after 19 months of absence. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
This is Africa Update, your pulse to the continent. Stories shaping nations and voices driving change. Stay informed, stay connected, right here on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Well, it is 12:06 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on Channel Africa from an African perspective. And you can literally join us on the show on all our social media platforms, at Channel Africa on Facebook, at Channel Africa 1 on Instagram, and you can send us your voice notes and comments on +27 83 288 6684. Well, coming up in this hour, we are going to be focusing on Nigeria, where the head of the Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, is calling for the immediate release of 42 Nigerians allegedly arrested in Mozambique without charges.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Today on Hashtag Africa Update Ask, the Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission is calling for the immediate release of 42 Nigerians allegedly arrested in Mozambique. Now, we want to know, what do you think is the reason behind the arrest of the 42 Nigerians in Mozambique? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +267 83 288 6684. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa Matters. The conversation on climate change and financing Africa's recovery. Only on Channel Africa.
We're proud to announce that Wits Business School is actually our partner. They are hosting us. The second most important thing, though, for me, is that we often go to these summits, these conferences, and you find that you never really know where to find solutions and outcomes that came out of those discussions. So Wits Business School will craft our outcomes document, which will have steps to say what are the follow-ups and how do we measure success and what do we need to do next.
Across the continent, climate change is forcing tough decisions. This is Africa Matters. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:08 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, head of the Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Abike Dabiri Erewa, is calling for the immediate release of 42 Nigerians allegedly arrested in Mozambique without charges. Dabiri Erewa has condemned the arrest, and for more, we are joined on the line by our correspondent in Nigeria, Jonathan James Liam-Gon.
Okay.
Jonathan, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, and I hope you're well. And, I'm hoping that you have information with regards to this particular story. Are there detainees facing any formal charges at this stage? And do we know whether they have had access to legal assistance?
So, Lulu, the thing about this particular case is you would most likely appreciate or understand that there isn't a typical flow of information from a country such as Mozambique into Nigeria. There's hardly any television that we follow. There's hardly any, mostly maybe football and basketball connect both countries. So this news, I would say, almost single-handedly filtered in through the Nigeria Diaspora Commission, which is headed by former House of Representative member Abike Dabiri Erewa. And she briefed the media about this situation, and that is when most of us started seeking to know a lot more about it. But incidentally, we've tried to reach out to different journalist colleagues. Some of them, it is actually at the point of our reaching out that they know about it. However, what we do know from what the Director General of the Nigeria Diaspora Commission has been able to explain is these 42 people are Nigerians. They've been able to establish their identity. And she also stated that they reached out to the Mozambican Attorney General, and he doesn't know about the matter as well. Now, whether he doesn't know about the matter as an official position or truly he is completely bereft of any idea about this issue is what we do not know. But for a thing that is said to have occurred in a major market in Mozambique, to have gotten to the point where up to 42 people were illegally detained, beaten, and maltreated, certainly one will expect that should have gotten to the ears of the Attorney General. So most of it is relatively sketchy and details only coming in generally through the NIDCOM. Lulu?
And what do you have any information with regards to these 42 Nigerians who have been arrested? Is there any information that has been picked up so far? And has any of the families who may have more information come forward with regards to their loved ones being detained in Mozambique?
So typically what we do with this kind of situation, you've actually spoken to it, because the traders, so these 42 detainees are all said to be traders, specifically persons who are involved in the trade of selling spare parts, vehicle spare parts. That is a thing that is very synonymous with a lot of traders in Nigeria, and they spread across several parts of Africa doing this trade, even up to places like the UAE. And most of them are organized in unions. So what we are doing as a press union here is trying to find a reach to the unions there. Also, because a lot of them are from mostly a particular ethnic group, they also often have unions that they relay with back home in Nigeria. So at the moment, we're trying to establish contact with them. But what we do know is they are traders. They all belong in the same market, which is what raises the question about this being a targeted thing born out of jealousy and a mixture of xenophobia, as is being hinted by the Nigeria Diaspora Commission. Lulu?
Is this just speculation from the Nigerian Commission, or do they have enough information with regards to the possible arrests that have taken place? And also, as you say, it was a market for spare parts, and you look at the region and you find that most vehicles that are stolen in South Africa are allegedly spread through the diaspora in terms of the southern African region and obviously across the African continent. Could this be linked? Could there be linkage here? Possibly?
I won't be surprised, knowing fully well how vehicle syndicates do operate. And even here in Nigeria, locally, one of the things that happens, that used to happen significantly, was when vehicles get stolen, they get driven into some of these organized spare parts markets, and literally within minutes, different people have specialties as to what parts they come to butcher, and it just kind of vanishes into the market. Now, what we've been able to establish is that they are all in that business, and that there has been no formal case that has been filed to charge them to court, which perhaps explains why the Attorney General of Mozambique says they do not know about the matter. Now, when you put a couple of these things together, of course, at this point, it's just conjecture, but one cannot put anything past it. And then also speaking to the fact that Mozambique in itself has most recently been experiencing a couple of topsy-turvy times in terms of its political landscape, with some civil unrest and a couple other things. So it is just something that we're still sketchy. It's still pretty much sketchy. News just doesn't come out of Mozambique so often like that.
And what are the next steps diplomatically between Nigeria and Mozambique? And what should we be watching for in the coming days?
Interesting you asked that, because I reached out to the Nigeria Diaspora Commission DG, and yet to get a response as to that. But typically what we expect is that we're going to see a formal either call of the ambassador of Mozambique to Nigeria, or we'll hear about other diplomatic channels. But so far, there hasn't been a formal position by Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Ministry, except for the Diaspora Commission, which is an agency under the Foreign Affairs Ministry, but then lacking on its own the capacity to engage with any foreign government.
Well, Jonathan, as you say, more information will hopefully come forward once the story is then, dealt with, or this issue is dealt with both countries in terms of diplomatically. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Always a pleasure talking with you, Lulu. Have a nice day.
Thank you, and to you too. That's our correspondent in Nigeria, Jonathan James Liamgon, joining us on the line.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights, with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Our Channel Africa will be hosting the first ever Africa Matters Summit on the 25th of March in Johannesburg, South Africa. The aim of this summit is to engage and find solutions on critical issues of development on the African continent. Now, this year's focus is on climate change, financing Africa's recovery. One of the panelists, Elise Goma, a CEO of Chedza Enviro and Planning Solutions, highlights his personal journey, the company's impact, practical solutions, and the broader importance of participating in the Africa Matters Summit.
What motivates me really is the fact that our continent is very young, and young people are also awakening, taking key positions in the industries, different industries. And that for me is important because young people collaborate much easier. So we need platform the likes of Africa Matters to come together and to be able to exchange our visions and goals. So I stand myself as a town planner between, or the intersection between urban development, ever rapid development that we're looking at in many cities of Africa, and also environmental challenges, climate resilience. So we look at issues of flooding, like we saw recently in South Africa and many other cities of Africa, the issue of water pollution, and plan urbanization with many informal settlements. How do we come together as professionals and bring new new solutions that will help our people to feel better in the urban spaces. So that's really where I am. And as a young CEO, I want to impact on policy making, on practitioners, on bringing up those ideas. Our recent work involved us working with Alexandra Water Warriors, a team of about 2,000 people coming together to clean the Jaske River. And this is an unprecedented movement in the continent when they come together, and they've been featured, Alexandra Water Warriors, in many, many magazines overseas. People are really appreciating what is happening. And we come as a technical partner to do what we call environmental impact assessment on the river, and also take some data to be able to promote and find finances. I think we'll talk about it later for these projects. So what is happening now is an awakening of young people, an awakening of the population, realizing that every year they go through the same struggle. The water will rise and people will die, and the river will get more and more dirtier, and all these things make that their daily life more and more difficult, despite all the needs that is coming from the state, from other NPOs. So us as a Chedza Environment Planning Solution, we bring this expertise that we've acquired through academic to really promote, but also write it down, keep all those changes that we're observing. So sustainability becomes then a key concept that we try to implement on the ground. And really what we see is the support of people, the community coming together through campaign, through workshop, learning about the environment and learning how to improve daily the river, but also the trees and everything that form part of the atmosphere there.
That was one of the panelists, Eliezer Goma, on participating in the Africa Matters Summit on the 25th of March in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Across Africa, communities rise with the promise of clean water and clean sanitation. The African Union's 2026 theme calls us to action.
It's about mobilizing real commitments, securing climate-resilient water and sanitation projects, and ensuring that water becomes a driver of sustainable development and prosperity across the continent.
A landmark moment, not only for Africa, but for the global movement for access to safe water for all.
Assuring sustainable water availability for every home, every village, every nation. This is the Africa we want.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 21 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. I stay connected to Africa and the world with Channel Africa, the international voice of the South African Broadcasting Corporation. Watch or listen anytime, anywhere at channelafrica.co.za, on the Channel Africa mobile app, and on SABC Plus, or via the DSTV and Open View audio bouquets. You can also catch us on social media at Channel Africa on Facebook and at Channel Africa 1 on all other platforms. Channel Africa, first with the African story. And today,
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Today on Hashtag Africa Update Asks, the Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission is calling for the immediate release of 42 Nigerians allegedly arrested in Mozambique. Now, we want to know, what do you think is the reason behind the arrest of the 42 Nigerians in Mozambique? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +27 83 288 6684. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Channel Africa 1060. 6 decades of stories, voices, and vision.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has extended the period in which the Political Interference and Corruption in the Criminal Justice System Commission, better known as the Madlanga Commission, must complete its work. The Commission will now submit its second interim report by the 29th of May, with the final report expected at the end of August. Now, the Commission spokesperson, Jeremy Michael, spoke to Sisi Sekgalo.
Let me say firstly that the Commission welcomes the announcement by President Cyril Ramaphosa of the extension of the Commission's term, and of course the statement by the Presidency yesterday stipulated that the Commission should complete its work by the 31st of August 2026, of course. As we have said consistently, there is quite a long list of witnesses who are yet to appear before the Commission under subpoena in phase 2 of the hearings. And it's also important to understand the significance of this phase that the Commission is in, against the backdrop of what the Commission heard in phase 1. In phase 1, the allegations were placed before the Commission. Those are allegations of criminality, political interference, and corruption in the justice system, in the criminal justice system. And of course, it started on the 17th of September last year, at which point Lieutenant General Mshamsha Mkhwanazi made or placed before the Commission on record and under oath the allegations that he made at that media briefing on the 6th of July in Durban. And what then followed was 27 witnesses who came to substantiate and corroborate those allegations. That was phase 1. We started phase 2 late last year, and of course, of significance in that phase, the Commission heard testimony from the Minister of Police, who is currently on a leave of absence, Senzo Mkhunu. But of course, that was limited to the issue of the disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team. And he has yet to come back to the Commission to deal with other aspects of the allegations against him. And also, obviously, to tell his side of the story. But I was saying that in phase 2, which is the phase we are currently in, quite a number of persons of interest who were implicated by witnesses in phase 1, they must now come to answer those allegations leveled against them. And as I was saying, to share with the Commission their side of the story, and also to assist the Commission in its inquiry. And then in phase 3, the Commission will hear again from Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, because there are allegations that have been leveled against him and others against whom allegations have been made. And so in that phase, we will hear from them and other persons as well, other individuals. So against that backdrop of these 3 phases, hopefully it helps you and your listeners to understand why the extension of the Commission's term was important, was necessary.
What progress has the Commission made since it began its work, and what are key issues or allegations that have emerged so far?
So the Commission today, the 10th of March 2026, is on day 74 of its hearings. We have made significant progress in delving into the allegations. We've heard quite a number of key witnesses, but as I was saying, there's still a long list of witnesses to come. and we are making steady progress towards getting to the bottom of the allegations and to establishing the truth, but we still have quite some way to go.
What can the public expect from the second interim report due in May? And will the interim report include preliminary findings or recommendations?
Well, Ceci, actually, the Commission is empowered to make recommendations and to refer matters for prosecution or further investigation, or making referrals, for separate inquiries to the appropriate law enforcement agencies or government departments or regulators. So the interim reports are submitted to the President, as was the case with the interim report in December, on the 17th of December, which was exactly 3 months after the Commission started its hearings. And the final report then, which is now due on the 31st of August, will be submitted to the President as well as the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chief Justice. But our reports are to the President. The interim report certainly that you are referring to in May, and it is his prerogative how he deals with that interim report. But as I say, the Commission will, in any event, refer matters in the interim to the relevant agencies.
That was the Madlanga Commission spokesperson, Jeremy Michael, speaking to Sisi Sekgalo. It is 12:30 Central African Time, and our news headlines up next.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. Making headlines. The U.S. Embassy in Nigeria has warned American citizens of a possible terrorist threat against U.S. facilities and affiliated schools in the West African country. The Independent Electoral Commission in South Africa has announced that voter registration weekend will be on the 20th and the 21st of June ahead of the 2026 local government elections. And finally, more than 3,000 lawyers, including a number of retired judges, have called on the British government to drop a plan to restrict the right to jury trials in cases where the defendant is likely to receive less than 3 years in jail. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
We kick off with football news. The final leg of the CAF African Schools Football Championship Zonal Qualifiers will kick off on the 12th of March in Libreville Stade Nzeng Ayong as the UNIFAC Zonal Union stages its qualifiers of Africa's largest schools football competition. After a season-long series of qualifiers that began in November 2025, the UNIFAC zone will host the concluding matches from the 12th to the 15th of March 2026, paving the way for next month's CAF African Schools Football Championship Continental Finals. The qualifiers will feature host nation Gabon alongside DR Congo and Sao Tome and Principe, competing in a round-robin format. The winning teams in both the boys and the girls under 15 divisions will secure their places at next month's CAF African Schools Football Championship Continental Finals as the Zonal Championship. Next month's Continental Finals will mark the 4th consecutive edition of the CAF African Schools Football Championship, which continues to leverage football as a platform to empower the next generation of African leaders. Now, cricket news. The 2020 World Cup winning Indian cricket team was awarded a bonus of 14.24 million on Tuesday by the country's cricket board, 6 times the prize money they claimed for lifting the title in Ahmedabad. India secured their historic third men's T20 World Cup crown with a dominant 96-run victory over New Zealand in a one-sided final on Sunday, earning $2.34 million for the tournament win. And in aquatics, South African Olympic champion Chad le Clos has partnered with Virgin Active to launch the Chad le Clos Virgin Active Academy, aimed at spreading his ethos across the country. This academy offers structured programs for swimmers at all levels. The 33-year-old says discussions between himself and the global brand began more than a year ago, before the partnership was officially launched this year.
So no, it's been a crazy journey. It's happened really quickly. So we started chatting about just over a year ago, and then it became official pretty much beginning of this year. But we've been working behind the scenes since about September last year, gathering coaches. We've got some really exciting things. Unfortunately, I can't announce too much because we're announcing some really big coaches coming on board in the next 6 weeks.
Le Clos says the goal of the academy is to provide a service that no one else in the world can offer.
Basically, the goal is to provide a service that no one else in the world that can do. So, for example, we have 7,400 Learn to Swim members currently. Right, so we're doing Learn to Swim. We're doing Learn to Swim for adults. We're doing level 1, level 2, level 3, Sanjay. We're doing also Olympic squads, so selective gyms will have Olympic training centers. So we'll do probably 3 of those in the next year or so.
And finally, Francis Ngannou will return to mixed martial arts after a 19-month absence when he faces Brazil Felipe Lins on the 16th of May. The 5-round heavyweight bout will be part of Most Valuable Promotions, the MVP inaugural MMA fight card, headlined by Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano in Los Angeles. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fidel Mwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Darubini ya Afrika na I am Henry Shakif.
Inaelezwa kwamba serikali kule visiwani Zanzibar imetangaza mpango mkubwa wa kuweza kurejesha urithi unaoungwa mkono na uwekezaji wa sekta ya umma na binafsi yenye thamani ya dola milioni 12. Unadhani sasa Zanzibar imeamua kujipambanua yenyewe kama yenyewe?
Hizi ni habari njema kwanza katika kuongeza uwekezaji kwenye sekta ya utalii, ngoni mwa sekta mama kwa serikali ya mapinduzi ya Zanzibar.
Pengine unawaambia nini Watanzania walioko nje ya Tanzania na walioko ndani kuweza kuzitizama fursa hizi kwa jicho la pili na kuweza kuwekeza ndani?
Jambo hili lina mtazamo mpana. Cha kwanza ni aina ya maisha ambayo baadhi ya watu visiwani Zanzibar wamekuwa nayo, na hii ni kutokana na ile colonial legacy, ile kutawaliwa na wenzetu wametawaliwa na masultani.
Darubini ya Afrika kila Jumatatu hadi Ijumaa kuanzia saa 11 kamili hadi saa 12 kamili jioni majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon. Gabon is turning back to the International Monetary Fund to help put its fiscal house in order. Its push for an IMF loan, which a prerequisite to unlocking investor cash and other international funding, could help stabilize the Central African OPEC members' finances. It will also likely have significant implications for its cash-strapped regional neighbors. However, while investors and ratings agencies view an IMF program as crucial, worries over Gabon's debt transparency and the government's will to push through tough reforms have bred skepticism. Kenya's pipeline company's shares traded marginally higher in early trade today after listing on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Earlier, shares were trading at 9.4 Kenyan shillings compared to the initial public offering price of 9 Kenyan shillings per share. The Kenyan government sold a 65% stake in the pipeline company, raising $823.7 million in the East African country's first major IPO in nearly 2 decades. Gauteng's key sectors such as health, education and infrastructure development are expected to receive major attention when Finance MEC Lebogang tables the province's budget today. The budget in South Africa's economic hub comes at a time when residents are calling for improved service delivery and safety. Meanwhile, the chairperson of the Community Safety Portfolio Committee in the provincial legislature, Bandile Masuku, says strengthening community policing to improve safety should be a priority.
We are in the process of engaging in the process of reconfiguration, which is something that we are doing oversight on, reconfiguration to actually strengthen community policing. And that's where we also want to see a better part of the budget actually going to make sure that we formalize and we strengthen community policing. Because the general policing, yes, we can actually talk about it, but we want to see more visible community policing happening in our areas.
US President Donald Trump has expressed frustration at Iran's continued blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and threatened to hit Iran much harder. Oil and stock markets have reacted favorably to the president's reassurances. Oil is again trading at around $90 a barrel. Shares on Asian markets have recovered some of yesterday's losses. The BBC's Nick Marsh has the details.
The comments by the president have given markets temporary reassurance that something will be done to stop the price of oil from spiralling out of control. But for now, the facts on the ground haven't changed. The war is continuing and still no oil tankers dare to cross the Strait of Hormuz. Details from Mr. Trump on what would make that possible are sketchy. Petrol prices are up everywhere, and there have been reports of panic buying in places such as Indonesia and Pakistan, where schools have been closed.
China's exports have surged in the first 2 months of this year, despite trade tensions with the US. Official figures show exports jumped by more than 20% in January and February, which is almost 3 times the rate predicted by economists. It puts the country on track to top the record-breaking annual trade surplus it saw in 2025. The announcement comes as US President Donald Trump is expected to visit China in early April to meet his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 394. In Botswana, it's at 13.44. Kenya, 128 shilling 31. And Zambia, 19 kwacha 208. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there, 5 ruble 24. Russia, 78 rubles 79. India, 92 rupees 14. China, 61.91. And in South Africa, the dollar will cost you 16 rand 65 cents. 75 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Gold is trading at $5,176, while platinum is at $2,197 per ounce. Brent crude oil is at $93.08 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabisolo Hoku.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. Stella Longwe. Pamalonje.
Ndiyetu apa tindikatswiri oyimba wa dziko la Mozambique ameneyu amene ali Rikabana. Ndatiuzeni kuti mayimba chamba chanji komanso dzina lanu lenileni kuoneka ngati dzina limeneli ndilijatu atapa stage. Dzina lanu kwenikweni ndi ndani komanso mayimba chamba chanji?
Ineyo dzina langa lenileni ndine Ricardo Musa Rabana. Chamba chimene ndimayimba ine ndi manganji ndimakonda kwambiri ma tradition. Zimenezo ndi nyimbo zathu chifukwa kwathu kunoko ndi madansi osiyana-siyana a chimizi. Ndi ineyo poti ndi mnyamata wa chimizi ndi ndimakondanso nyimbo za chimizi.
Ndinu a chimizi? Ndi makondanso nyimbo za chimizi, mapangaso za chimizi. Zosangalatsa kuti mwanena bwera kuti ndinu a chimizi. Anthu amazibisa, anthu amafuna kukhala ndithu achitauni. Koma chikhalidwe chilibe chitauni, alisa ndi chikhalidwe chake, alisa ndi zimene amakonda.
Malonje, pa nthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo. Lowiruka ndi Stella Longwe. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights. with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:42 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The United Nations Secretary General has issued a stark warning about the persistence of gender inequality across the globe. Speaking at the United Nations General Assembly headquarters in New York during the opening of the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women to mark International Women's Day, Antonio Guterres said the world remains deeply shaped by a male-dominated culture. Michael Mbewe has more.
The Commission on the Status of Women holds its 70th session at UN headquarters in New York from 9 to 19 March under the priority theme Ensuring and Strengthening Access to Justice for All Women and Girls, including by promoting inclusive and equitable legal systems, eliminating discriminatory laws, policies and practices, and addressing structural barriers. During the opening session, UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres warned that despite advances in the 21st century, millions of women and girls still face injustice as discriminatory laws and entrenched patriarchal norms continue to persist.
So let me begin with an often unspoken but age-old truth. We still live in a male-dominated world and a male-dominated culture. Gender equality is and always has been a question of power. Not a single step forward for women's rights has ever been given. It has been won by generations of women and girls, advocates and activists, community leaders and justice seekers. Here we are, well into the 21st century, yet justice remains a distant dream for millions upon millions of women and girls. Discriminatory laws persist. Patriarchal norms endure.
Worldwide, women hold just 64% of the legal rights enjoyed by men. Guterres says the gap is not accidental but rooted in structural systems within a world where inequality continues to widen rapidly.
Around the globe, women hold only 64% of the legal rights enjoyed by men. This gap is structural, not accidental, and it limits opportunity across societies. We are a world strained by conflict, climate chaos, widening inequalities, and technological upheaval. And in this turbulent world, the pushback on women's rights is in overdrive. Let's be clear, backlash is what entrenched power does when it feels its grip loosening. And the evidence is all us.
Guterres has warned that women's rights are under increasing threat worldwide, with legal protections eroding and conflict-related sexual violence rising sharply as women and children continue to bear the brunt of global conflicts.
Hard-won legal protections are being eroded. Women human rights defenders are under attack. Sexual and reproductive health and rights are being undermined. At the same time, at the moment when the Middle East and other parts of the world are engulfed in conflict, we know that women and children are bearing the brunt of violence and displacement. The number of women and girls living within 50 kilometers of a deadly conflict is at its highest in decades. Conflict-related sexual violence has surged by 87% in just 2 years.
Talking of women rights defenders, Malala Yousafzai, a Pakistani Nobel Prize laureate, women and girls human rights activist, has declared that the situation of women and girls around the world is regressing, citing Afghanistan as a clear example under the Taliban rule.
In Afghanistan today, it is legal for a man to beat his wife or daughter. I recently spoke on the phone with an Afghan girl. When I go to my room and read a book, she said, "It feels like I am defying the Taliban." She is one of the millions for whom simply existing has become an act of courage.
She accused the Taliban leadership of systematically removing women from public life.
For nearly 5 years now, the Taliban have been erasing women and girls from public life, and the world has responded by looking away or by excusing the abuses of the Taliban under the banners of culture or religion. This is not culture. It is not religion. It is a system of segregation and domination. We must call the regime in Afghanistan by its true name, gender apartheid.
The president of the United Nations General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock, said the global community must move beyond debating women's rights and instead focus on delivering justice, warning that persistent gender inequality is the result of deliberate choices to roll back equal rights.
After 70 sessions of this Commission on the Status of Women and 30 years since the Beijing Declaration, we no longer need to debate why women's rights matter. The facts are clear. The real question is, why are we still not delivering? It's not that we don't know better. The answer is that inequality is an active choice. Rollbacks on equal rights are an active choice. And that is why the theme of this year's CSW, Justice, could not be more timely.
Furthermore, Baerbock said global gender inequality persists because many countries still lack laws guaranteeing equal rights, protections against child marriage and rape, and equal pay for women.
The struggle for women's rights is fundamentally a struggle for justice itself. Justice in principle, what our laws say, justice in practice and action, how those laws are implemented, and justice in power, meaning who holds it. Globally, women have only 2/3 of the legal rights afforded to men. 54% of countries lack consent-based legal definitions of rape. 72% allow child's, so de facto girls' marriage. 44% do not mandate equal pay for equal work. These are not oversights, but deliberate choices.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, stay connected to Africa and the world with Channel Africa, the international voice of the South African Broadcasting Corporation. Watch or listen anytime, anywhere at channelafrica.co.za, on the Channel Africa mobile app and on SABC Plus, or via the DSTV and OpenView audio bouquets. You can also catch us on social media at Channel Africa on Facebook and at Channel Africa 1 on all other platforms. Channel Africa, first with the African story globally. On hashtag Africa Update Asked today, the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission is calling for the immediate release of 42 Nigerians allegedly arrested in Mozambique. Now, we want to know, what do you think are the reasons behind the arrests of the 42 Nigerians in Mozambique? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes on +267 83 288 6684. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
60 years of stories and sounds. Channel Africa, the African perspective. The Morning Switch Weekend with the Shy Guy.
I Show Speed, often called Speed, who is a popular American YouTuber and live streamer known for his high-energy personality, loud reactions, and unpredictable humor. He visited Ethiopia, and he was shocked what he found out, actually, when he got to Ethiopia. He got to find out that, they don't use the Gregorian calendar. That is, we are in 2026 right now. And he got to find out they are in 2018.
2018? Nah, you trolling me. It's 2026. No. It ain't 2026? Wait, hold on. Wait, we in the past? Ronaldo is still in Real Madrid. Everything is in the past here.
Oh man, how shocked the Speed was. He went back in time.
Saturday and Sunday mornings belong to the Morning Switch. 3 to 6 a.m. Central African Time.
Africa Matters.
The conversation on climate change and financing Africa's recovery. Only on Channel Africa.
We're proud to announce that Wits Business School is actually our partner. They are hosting us. The second most important thing, though, for me, is that we often go to these summits, these conferences, and you find that you never really know where to find solutions and outcomes that came out of those discussions. So Wits Business School will craft our outcomes document, which will have steps to say what are the follow-ups and how do we measure success and what do we need to do next.
Across the continent, climate change is forcing tough decisions. This is Africa Matters. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Well, stay connected to Africa and the world with Channel Africa, the international voice of the South African Broadcasting Corporation. Watch or listen anytime, anywhere at channelafrica.co.za, on the Channel Africa mobile app and on SABC Plus, or via the DSTV and OpenView audio bouquets. You can also catch us on social media at Channel Africa on Facebook and at Channel Africa 1 on all other platforms. Channel Africa, first with the African story globally.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Today on hashtag Africa Update, Ask the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission is calling for the immediate release of 42 Nigerians allegedly arrested in Mozambique. Now, we want to know, what do you think are the reasons behind the arrest of the 42 Nigerians in Mozambique? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +27 83 288 6684. That's hashtag Africa Update Us.
We are on OpenView's audio bouquet. Channel 628.
A new report has raised concerns about widespread fraud in South Africa's public school admissions system, with some parents allegedly submitting false information to secure places at high-demand schools. So according to the Tenant Profile Network Credit Bureau, schools have reported cases where applicants provided misleading addresses or falsified documents to meet feeder zone requirements. Now, education stakeholders warn that the practice undermines fair access to schooling and places additional pressure on already oversubscribed institutions. Our reporter, Lebogang Mabange, has more.
A report by the Tenant Profile Network has uncovered a troubling pattern of fraudulent applications during the school admissions process. Schools have reported cases where parents allegedly submit falsified documents in an attempt to secure placements for their children at high-demand institutions. Ashley Laurent is the legal counsel at TPN Credit Bureau.
What schools had indicated was that there were reports of doctored municipal bills, often generic proof of residence letters issued without verification, or fabricated lease agreements. They'd also indicated that when performing door-to-door checks, the individual may not have necessarily resided there, despite stating so in their application. So these were the most common types of fraud that we would see as indicated by schools.
Education stakeholders say the issue is particularly prevalent at high-performing schools where the demand for placements far exceeds the available space. The Federation of Governing Bodies of South African Schools says its member schools have increasingly reported such cases. Dr. Jaco Deacon, Chief Executive Officer of FEDSAS, explains.
FEDSAS is concerned about the growing number of cases where parents submit false or misleading residential information during the admissions process. Over a number of years, our member schools have reported instances of doctored municipal accounts, fabricated lease agreements, or generic proof of residence letters that cannot be verified. This problem tends to occur particularly at well-performing schools where the demand for places exceed the available capacity. In some verification exercises conducted by our member schools, very high levels of inaccurate address information were detected. Because of the growing nature of this problem, FEDSAS supported the amendment to the SA Schools Act, which introduced Section 59.3.
Dr. Deacon says addressing the issue will require stronger verification systems as well as greater cooperation between schools and provincial education departments.
I think a combination of stronger verification processes and clear accountability is needed. It's both. So schools are already carrying a significant administrative burden to verify the different documentation. And now this may involve scrutinizing documentation, cross-checking addresses, and in some instances physically verifying the school address. The responsibility usually falls on the school governing body, but they will dedicate it to the management of the school. At the same time, where provincial departments run centralized online admission systems, there's obligation on the department to help to verify the process. In one province, the Northern Cape, the schools only see the application after the system approved them to be admitted to specific schools, which limits the school's ability to detect fraud, and that should be addressed.
The Credit Bureau also cautions that while some applications may contain inaccurate information, not all cases necessarily involve deliberate fraud.
It's imperative to note that some cases clearly involve inaccurate information, but it's important not to assume intent in every situation. What the data does show is that the system is under pressure and that strong verification processes are needed to ensure admissions remain fair. If, of course, a parent deliberately misleaded the school they or submits false information, they put themselves at risk of rejection, cancellation of admission after placement, and criminal liability as cited in the Act.
Education stakeholders are urging parents to submit accurate information during the admissions process, warning that falsifying documents could lead to rejected applications, cancelled placements, or even criminal charges under the amended Schools Act. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Stay connected to Africa and the world with Channel Africa, the international voice of the South African Broadcasting Corporation. Watch or listen anytime, anywhere at channelafrica.co.za, on the Channel Africa mobile app and on SABC Plus, or via the DSTV and OpenView audio bouquets. You can also catch us on social media at Channel Africa on Facebook and at Channel Africa 1 on all other platforms. Channel Africa, first with the African story globally. And today on hashtag Africa Update Asked, the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission is calling for the immediate release of 42 Nigerians allegedly arrested in Mozambique. Now, we want to know, what do you think are the reasons behind the arrest of the 42 Nigerians in Mozambique? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +2